does expire, it will affect the people in this room?
I think if the subsidy expires, it will not have a dramatic impact as long as we keep the renewable fuel standard and as long as we're moving towards flex fuel cars and flex fuel stations, which are the keys we need. Because the truth is, when you get to a certain price of oil, the production of ethanol and the production of corn have improved so much in the last 25 years that we are actually very competitive with oil as long as it has to be carried. I mean, the problem we have, and this is what some of our friends don't understand about the development of biofuels, big oil would like to not have anything to do with it because big oil would like to sell nothing but oil. Okay? I am for every American source of energy because I think it's a national security issue. And if you watched last week when the Iranians were practicing closing the Straits of Hormuz, and you say to yourself, so how big would the industrial depression be if the Persian Gulf was cut off? We should be pretty deeply committed to getting to American sufficiency in energy, and ethanol is a part of that.
But to that point, what happens under a Gingrich administration when oil's back down to $40 a barrel? Then what happens to these people?
Well, first of all, I think it's not likely to have oil back down at $40 a barrel. And second, as long as the renewable fuel standard, it won't matter because you'll have E10 or E15 ethanol. I favor strongly going to E15. There's no technical reason the cars can't use E15, and that makes a big difference. But in the long run, we got to do what the Brazilians have done. I mean, the Brazilians have gone to a flex fuel car where every single car in Brazil can use any form of fuel you want. And the result is the Brazilians don't rely on the Middle East for anything. Zero. And that ought to be our strategic goal.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
We're being bombarded almost daily in the mail and on television and radio. Who is this Restore Our Future that's sending us all this? Who's behind that, Mr. Speaker?
I don't know.
His first name Newt.
Who is yeah, somebody's super, but I don't know which one is which, frankly. Restore Our Future?
Restore Our Future Incorporated, 12501 Street, Northwest Street.
Put him on the list.
Hey, go get him.
Okay, where's, I'm curious, you've asked me the question. Where's RC at? Which one is that? Oh, okay. Well, that makes my point. If you see Romney, ask him to take it off. Ask him to take him off the air. I mean, you know, it'd be nice if candidates were responsible for the things being done by the people who know them personally, who are trying to help them get elected. But my plea to people across the state for the next 14 days is simple. When you see one of these guys, ask them, how can they keep running this negative stuff? Yes, sir.
As president, how will you address the Federal Reserve System?
As president, how I address the Federal Reserve System? Well, I could say, sir, ma'am. There are a number of ways to address it, but I think, but I apologize. It was too good a moment. I couldn't help myself. I'll get a lecture later that wasn't good. No, she's from Wisconsin and she went to Luther College and she has a little more. She has a little more of the Midwestern sensibility than I do, so I apologize. But anyway, one, we have to audit the Federal Reserve every year. Two, we have to repeal the Humphrey-Hawkins Act and quit confusing the Federal Reserve. The only purpose of the Federal Reserve is to have money as good as gold that retains its value, so if you save it at 20 years of age, it's still worth $1 when you're 60. Three, we should publish all of the decision documents for 2008, 9, and 10. Bernanke's handled trillions of dollars in secret. That is wrong. We deserve to know who did he give the money to, why, who didn't he give money to, why, so that shall be published. Four, if he doesn't resign by the day I'm sworn in, I'll ask the Congress to pass a bill that week to fire him.
Obama's principal argument next year will be to allow him to raise taxes on millionaires. 65% of American public is in favor of that. How do you counter that?
Yeah, you're never going to win a fairness argument. Because the truth is, almost everybody's happy to have somebody else pay taxes. And people don't feel sympathetic for millionaires, and there's no reason they should. I never make a sympathy argument. I have a very simple argument. The tax program we have, combined with the deregulation program we have, will create millions of jobs and will allow our children and grandchildren to be in the biggest manufacturing country in the world with the highest standard of living, with the greatest productivity. Now that's what I offer you. And I'll give you an example of how messed up this whole system is. when liberals do tax distribution, they say, oh, if we have this tax cut, this amount goes to the very poor, who, by the way, don't pay taxes. And this amount goes to the wealthy, who, by the way, pay taxes, okay? And therefore, it's a maldistribution. My question is this. If you are unemployed, take the month in 1983, where under Reagan we created 1,300,000 new jobs. Should we count the income distribution of 1,300,000 unemployed people getting a job? If the average job was $40,000, does that mean that you just had the creation of $60 billion of income for people who didn't have a job? So should we count that in the distribution table? We have a Social Security plan, which allows young people to have the choice of doing what they do in Chile and Galveston, Texas, which is take their half of the Social Security tax, put it into a personal Social Security account no politician can touch, let it build up for their lifetime. According to Martin Feldstein at Harvard, in a generation you eliminate 50% of the income inequality in the United States because all these people now have stocks and bonds and investments. In Chile, on average, they're getting 2 to 3 times the return they get out of a Social Security transfer system. So I'd say to my liberal friends, let's redo the scoring and we get to count the income from jobs. And let's redo the scoring and we get to count the shift of wealth when young people are allowed to keep the money and invest it. Instead of having Obama say twice in July, I may not be able to send you your Social Security check, which by the way was really disgusting because they had $2.4 trillion sitting in the trust fund. See, so I'm very happy to debate the president on, he wants to argue going after the rich and class warfare. I want to argue hard work, free enterprise, and creating millions of jobs.